I would venture to say most humans are in recovery in some way. Might not be a drug, but we all face different addictions, all insecurities, or all reasons for getting in positions we maybe don't want to be in.
I'd like to welcome our listeners to the Boulos Beat podcast. I'm Cameron Foster, guest hosting for Greg Boulos. The Boulos Company is Northern New England's largest commercial real estate services firm with offices in Portland, Maine, as well as Manchester and Portsmouth, New Hampshire. We've been selling and leasing real estate in Maine and New Hampshire since 1975. This podcast is designed to provide insight into Maine's business movers and shakers. And speaking of business leaders, I'd like to welcome Joan Denckla to the Boulos Beat. Joan is the Regional Vice President of Care Delivery at Groups Recovered Together, a company that provides medication-assisted treatment to combat the opioid epidemic across the country. Joan, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Could you tell us a little bit about yourself, where it all started, and how you ultimately ended up in South Portland?
Sure. I grew up outside of Chicago, Midwest, and ended up coming out to the East Coast for school. College, stayed and worked in New England, went to graduate school for public health at Yale, and then went down to New York for a while.
Awesome.
And then ultimately, job ended up taking me back up here to Maine.
Awesome. And do you still have family in Chicago?
I do. My mom is still there.
Awesome.
The rest of us have kind of dispersed, but I get back there.
Nice. And do you have a big family yourself?
Yeah, I'm the youngest of four, so I've got three older siblings who live St. Paul, Asheville, North Carolina, Cambridge, and then my dad is actually further up north in Maine.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Any hobbies, interests as a kid? Anything that sticks out? Like what were you doing in Greater Chicago?
Greater Chicago. So my brother we had three girls and a boy. So my brother was right above me. So
you were last in line.
I was last in line.
Say.
So I was whatever my brother wanted me to be that day. Kind of nothing that exciting. A lot of play with him. Like I lived in a little neighborhood. We could bike around, kind of nice like that.
Yeah.
Played soccer. Went a lot of sledding. It was cold. Like outside of Chicago, it was cold. Like here.
And does your family have roots in Chicago, or did they move there? Your parents took a job?
So we're from the East Coast originally.
Okay.
So my kind of dad's job took us out there.
Yeah.
My mom's from the Rhode Island area. My dad's from Pennsylvania. So we came back to the East Coast. Definitely feels a little bit more like home.
Okay.
But I do love it. I think Midwesterners are definitely kind people.
I know. I played soccer with a few folks from the Midwest.
Okay.
And I don't want to generalize an entire area of the country, but nice people.
Yeah,
nice
definitely.
people. So you went to Bowdoin, I researched.
Yeah.
And I also saw you're a student athlete. So do you still play tennis? This is a big question.
I have like a love-hate with tennis.
Okay.
I loved it so much, and then I really stepped away from it.
Yeah.
But I'm back out there with my kids.
Good.
And I still, I'm active. Tennis isn't at the top of the list anymore, but I do get out there with my kids.
Nice.
Yeah.
And do you stay involved with Bowdoin? I mean, how was your experience with?
I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it. I'll bring the kids to games, go to a few hockey games. And the ice rink now compared to when I went there is very different. You would layer up before, but we'll go to sports games with the kids. And then actually stuff that I probably didn't take advantage of enough there, some of the arts.
I think this is a reoccurring theme of students, right?
Yeah.
I didn't even know that building was on.
Exactly.
And then so from Bowdoin, you transitioned to Yale, where you got a master's in public health.
Yep.
What was that transition like? Why Yale? Exciting, I mean.
Yeah, it was good. I actually took, I guess, 3 years off to work, which was really good decision. I think back to that things we didn't take advantage of in college.
Yeah.
I think it made me appreciate being back at school, having worked a little bit first.
Yeah.
I was looking at I had a job that finally helped me realize that public health was the field I wanted to get into after a liberal arts path of trying many things. So I looked at different public health programs, and at that point actually was kind of more focused on global health, and Yale had a good program.
Seems like it makes sense,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And that was, and so you were at Yale for how long?
2 years.
2 years. Mm-hmm. And then from Yale, you're up in Portland.
Yeah.
You're in Maine.
Yeah.
And so tell us what that looked like.
Sure. So Yale, I kind of hopped a few places. I went and worked actually back at a public health consulting firm in Boston for a while. Then I found my way to New York, where I never thought I would have lived ever.
Yeah.
But loved it for the time I was there.
Yeah.
I told people it's almost like when you leave a wedding when it's still fun. I left New York when it's still fun, so I have good memories.
I like
being
that
there.
metaphor. Yeah.
Yeah, it's better to leave when it's still fun.
Yeah.
And got a job wanted to relocate when I was starting a family. Mm-hmm. And my kid's dad was had gone to Bowdoin too, so we liked Maine.
Yeah.
And got a job at the city of Portland in emergency preparedness.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Yeah.
And so from that role, you transitioned to Groups Recover Together, where you currently work. And for our listeners, tell us a little bit about what Groups Recover Together does, and kind of why you were brought in originally.
Sure. So, in essence, all this public health path, and Groups Recover Together is a medication-assisted treatment provider. So we work with folks with substance use disorder. Over my last 10 years in Maine, 15, worked my way in different jobs in public health, and had done some stuff in primary prevention, chronic disease prevention, and then I was in healthcare, and I had worked previously more in primary prevention, so that would be working with youth on substance use prevention. And this opportunity came up to work in treatment, and I was at a place where I just felt like I could really dive in a little deeper, and a little more intense of position, and I was excited about it. So I transitioned over.
And then from that role, so you had a couple roles within Groups Recover Together.
Yeah.
And then the state director, but that's not the current role you're in.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, so Groups is a fairly new company. We started in 2014 and grew quickly. So when I started, I was really focusing on the opioid health home program, which is the contract for Medicaid Maine care folks. And then as opportunities grew in our state, I took the position of the state director and now regional vice president for New England. So New Hampshire, Maine, and Rhode Island are the states we cover. So I oversee care delivery in those 3 states.
Since the pandemic, I'm looking at this card, the pandemic hit everybody.
Yeah.
How have things been? Or how have you had to adapt what you do, how you do it?
Massively. So as a provider, there are many ways you can go for treatment. So we do weekly counseling as part of our treatment model, and then we prescribe buprenorphine, Suboxone for medication. The premise of our model, Groups Recover Together, is group therapy.
Together.
Group counseling.
We can do this together. Yeah.
So March 2020, within a week, we went entirely virtual. But before that, we had, at that point, and we've grown, which we'll get to probably, I think before that, maybe 11, 12 offices throughout the state. So we went really quickly to a remote model. A lot of folks in treatment have other comorbidities, really need to protect folks' health. So to be in a group setting, as we know with COVID, it was not something that was happening.
Tough.
So we adapted, and we worked a lot, and invested a lot in our digital platform. Yep. And over the years have really improved that digital experience. So again, the 3 pillars are this medication, counseling, and then other peer support, care navigation. So we did remote when we had to, and we are happy to have doors open again.
Yeah, and so being one of the pillars, counseling, Groups Recover Together.
Yeah.
The physical space is important.
Yeah.
Obviously you adapted, but the goal is, I would think, to have people come back together, as that's a model that works,
Yeah.
right? Because you guys are a national company.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a fun little pivot, because I've
Yeah.
actually had the pleasure of working with Dennis McCoy, who's the head of real estate for Groups Recover Together. And I'm looking at my notes here, 5 office locations that I've helped Dennis relocate. Because I think a lot of people, maybe physical space is, why is it important? I know you just touched on the group together, but in the face of a pandemic, to be investing into office space and space for your client, talk a little bit about that.
I mean, I think whenever I feel like when I need to really remember about our work and why we do it, I go into an office. Because when you go into an office, you have someone, our offices are open for the day and we have set groups. And sometimes this is one of the only places someone's going to get a hot cup of coffee for the day, or some snacks, or some in-person support, whether you're in the group or you're just in the waiting room, but just talking to the office manager who knows you because they see you every week. And just watching people connect in person is invaluable. So, our model looks different now. We have hybrid groups. There's also, people have gotten used to participating remotely, but there is definitely, for folks, I think, who sometimes feel alone, sometimes feel put out, the human connection is really important to be able to have.
Yeah. And I'm proud of the work that I've done with Groups Recover. And so Ellsworth, Brunswick, Augusta, Caribou, and Waterville, all brand new offices.
Yes.
And we'll talk a little bit about how folks can reach out if they're interested. But it's great.
Yeah, no, and Caribou's going to be brand new, which is great. So we were only as far north as Holton. So Caribou going to be, have that new site. And we're working on final touches, opening late this summer. So that'll be like another anchor, in the northern part of the state, which will be fantastic.
So I want to ask you a couple kind of fun questions, get to know you. What are some things that motivate you outside of the office?
That is fun. Mornings and running, and kind of where we live. So I run with a group of anywhere. I prefer not to go alone because it's my one time to connect with some female friends. So I run with anyone from 1 to 6 other women most mornings, and get to where I live. It's near the coast, which we live in a beautiful state, so usually get out to see the ocean and the sunrise. So
that's awesome.
Definitely helps before I'm sitting in front of a computer all day.
And this has been a consistent thing, or not?
It has.
Yeah.
No, it's actually
a part of the routine.
Yeah, and the group has shifted a little bit, but since before my son was born, so 13 years.
So you're a core member, I'll say.
Core member of this unofficial running group.
I love that.
But it's not about the running. It's really about the just getting outside and clearing my mind and being with them before I start my day.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And for me, it's just the delineation, if I could say that, between work, me time, home time.
Yeah.
I'm a runner too.
Yeah.
And I kind of like going to the office, like my time to run, and my time at home.
Yeah, definitely.
Blend them all together.
Definitely.
Tell us something you're proud of and something that did not go as planned, and kind of like, what'd you learn from these events? You can pick one or do both.
Something that didn't go planned every day in my household. Okay, so something I'm proud of. I'm really proud of finding a place in life with a career, family, friends, where I feel rooted and I feel really excited about all of them. I think there can be a challenge in being a working mom or non-working mom, but in my case, and I feel like I'm proud to have feel fortunate to have a job that I love, and that my kids can watch me love and see what that's like, but also have and make time for them and my loved ones and my friends and other things I need to do to keep me sane. So I'm proud of kind of getting to that place and
the life you put together, and then the balance.
And I say fortunate more than proud. Yeah,
fortunate.
It's lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really lucky.
There was Jessica Estes in our office did a morning talk with Lisa DeSesto of the Portland Herald.
Yeah.
And she was talking about a leadership coach. And one of the books that the leadership coach recommended was a book about kind of being proud, of where you looking at your accomplishments,
Yeah.
and it's mostly was for the second half of life.
Yeah.
But not being like too hard, on yourself, looking
Yeah.
at what you have.
Yeah.
And so I love those two answers kind of
Yeah.
molded together in my
Yeah.
brain.
There's plenty that I haven't done well. I mean, I can say, probably every other parenting decision. And I mean, not literally, but certainly some. At work, I think anything from staffing decisions that are hard or that you line up that don't work out as planned. I think for us, with coming out of the pandemic, and we're talking about being in person and kind of the return to office.
Yeah.
And, we tried some things and they didn't all work. We tried making some groups mandated in person, some not, because we thought maybe that would help. And we tried a lot. And, and a lot of that didn't work. But the learning is, okay, where are we? And I think that's the beautiful part is all these what didn't go as planned, there's always a learning. And for us right now, it is how do we have people in the office in a different way? How do we create that community without being your 3 o'clock group? Why would you want to come in, Cameron? How else can we create a community that doesn't have to be in your hour-long group each week? So always a learning with it.
Yeah.
Plenty of opportunities to learn.
Yeah, and that's an overarching theme, I would say, in real estate and office space.
Yeah.
Why do people
Yeah.
come to the office? And landlords, folks like myself, thinking about that question. Why would somebody want to come to the office?
Yeah.
Environment, collaboration,
Yeah.
mentorship. But if you don't have those things, you have to ask yourself,
Yeah.
why are we pushing people to come back?
Right.
But it does seem like it's a pillar
Yeah.
of the group.
Yeah.
I never
And our
noticed that
staff
groups
like it.
recover together.
Yeah.
But a group. That's awesome. What's one thing you wish you had known when you began your career? It's going to be hard.
In a sense, I think to go easy. Back to almost like what that person was saying, or like to go easy. It's like trust in a decision, let it play out, see how it goes.
Yeah.
Because you can always change.
Yeah.
I think with every turn there was something unknown that I was uncovering. So I think, if I could tell my younger self that it's,
Keep trying.
keep trying, yeah.
Keep failing.
Yeah, keep failing.
I think
keep failing.
that's been a big, and with
I like
social
that.
media, everyone
Yeah.
talks about the negatives, but
Yeah.
some of the positives are a lot of founders and entrepreneurs, and
I actually love that.
they're going on and telling that they failed 100
Yeah.
times. I was like,
Yeah.
it's just cool to understand,
I'm
Are you
going to use that. I'm like our younger staff. Keep failing.
Keep
I like
failing.
that.
Are you a book reader?
I am a book reader, yeah.
Do you have a recommendation of a book? It doesn't have to be about being a better leader, but it can.
So actually reading right now All About Love by Bell Hooks. And I think that is that is to do with it being a great leader in a different way. So it's a lot about how we learned about love, contextualized love, self-love, and how kind of our relationships begin there. And I think that's actually really relevant to a leader.
Yeah, so it's self-help, but it's also relevant to your professional career.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
There are plenty of others too.
Right. What is the biggest misconception people have about what you do, your field of expertise? Which I know this is probably a big one.
Yeah. It is. I think there's unfortunately a lot of stigma that really ends up harmful to folks in recovery. And one thing I remind myself, I remind others when they ask me about my work is, I would venture to say most humans are in recovery in some way. It might not be a drug, but we all face different addictions, all insecurities, or all reasons for getting in positions we maybe don't want to be in. So I think that it is a theme, and it's very easy to kind of say us, them, and how did they get into this? So I think a misconception, is that it's someone's fault, that it's your fault for being addicted to opioids. So that is, that's one we face a lot and really work on unpacking.
Like you're born into you Joan.
Yeah, or that was a really dumb decision, or if only you chose not to.
Yeah.
And I think with the opioid epidemic, there are so many layers. Either A, some folks, were prescribed and became addicted, and B, some folks ended up with hard times, and we all find different things to cope, ways to cope, and some people make choices that end up, with more severe consequences than others. But one theme I hear when I've sat in groups is not one person in the room would say, I choose to be here and I'd choose again. I mean, I would say folks choose to be on their recovery journey in terms of what they learn. But the stigma around drug use in general is pretty intense.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
But that's why the company exists.
Yeah.
And
we had a video the other day where we interviewed. It was great. We interviewed to try and get our staff to know each other, and we had an interview of a member and a counselor together, and they were both asked, "Who are you proud of?" And the member said, "I'm proud of me," and that was the best answer.
Yeah,
the best answer.
Yeah, that's awesome. What in your mind makes a great leader? And if there was somebody in the past, somebody who's currently alive, who is a great leader, who you strive to or aspire to be like, you think they are a great leader, who would that be? And again, what makes a great leader in your mind?
I think some traits of a great leader are a listener, someone who is empathetic and who is not afraid to kind of share their successes and share their failures, who is not afraid to empower others and lift others up around them. And I have so many. I mean, it's a tough question. I'm really bad at saying like the one, but I think everyone from a high school English teacher, whom I recall, to a lot of my professors are some of the better leaders I think that I've encountered. And then I think honestly, I feel lucky that probably most of my past supervisors to me are great leaders, and my team. I have 3 great leaders. And actually more than that in my state that I think do a great job at really supporting their staff and helping them shine.
What does the future look like for groups who recover together? I know because you told me, you guys started in 2016, newer company, but you're in New England. Mm-hmm. Where else do you stretch to, and what does the kind of the future look like? Yeah,
so we're definitely expanding for better or worse, right?
Yeah.
I wish we could disappear and find something else. But so we're throughout kind of the Midwest, Mid-Atlantic, so Indiana, Tennessee, Kentucky, Virginia, Florida, and then expanding out west too, and then some new states. So we've been in California for a while, and we're expanding there. And then remind me the second part of your question.
Oh, do you work with specific states, or is it it's a for-profit? So I didn't know if it's a partnership with states or insurance company.
Sure. So it varies a little by state. Yeah. So we accept commercial insurance as well as most Medicaid plans. So in most states, we're able now to accept all insurances, including Medicaid. Yeah. So Maine's been a wonderful partner with Maine Care, Medicaid. So do our best to be able to serve all audiences. We do have self-pay too, but usually can support folks with the different insurance plans we have.
Okay. And again, I've had the pleasure of working with your company on the office locations in Maine. And so...
and that's been a great experience as we talked about earlier. It's, we are all over the place, and we have Dennis is fantastic, but really relies then on kind of local intelligence to help find the right spot for us.
Well, thank you, Joan, for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Cameron, for having me. This was really great.
Yeah, and I hope to see you soon.
Yeah.
Maybe at a Bowdoin game or...
Yeah, and I look forward to more work together. Thanks so much.
Yeah, awesome. And if you'd like to learn more about Groups Recovered Together, you can search them at www.joingroups.com. You can also call a 1-800 number at 1-800-683-8313. You can also find them on Facebook and Instagram at Groups Recover Together. And if you'd like to learn more about the Boulos Company, please be sure to visit us at www.boulos.com. You can also find us at the Boulos Company on Facebook and LinkedIn, and at the Boulos Co. on Instagram and Twitter.